Hi everyone, welcome. I'm down here in my wormery preparing to check in on my African nightcrawlers, the small tiny bit of my African nightcrawler population that survived the die-off from the first haul out. So basically, quick rewind, I have a couple old systems. My two oldest systems are over here with the crazy contraptions all set up in them. Worms got migrated out of these two systems, and those two systems that I launched with those worms a month ago all died off, and that was kind of an unhappy ending. But then 18 days ago, I decided I was going to see what I could do about collecting up straggler worms that might have been left behind in the material from that first haul out. So I've got my small container. I don't expect I'll need more space than that. I got some prepared bedding, and I've even got the original bedding from their old system. That's the bedding that we used to create these bait boxes, for example. So I got some good materials, and yeah, this is going to become a little temporary nameplate for this system until we put it into a slightly larger system. This is just going to be for the initial launch, and eventually we'll get them out of this temporary container into a real box and whoops, give them a sticker. But for now it's just going to be this little temporary thing. So we're going to get the systems up on the bench and we're going to get to work. On each occasion, whenever I would visit in with these systems over the past 18 days, I probably did it 3 or 4 times. I would come in here, I would remove the bait box, and then I would proceed to start examining the material. First off, right beneath where the bait box was, just in case maybe a straggler worm was just working to get into the box but still had not managed to do so. So I did find that one worm hanging out right there on the surface after I removed the bait box. But chances are we're not going to see a whole lot more anymore. I mean, during each of those visits, I would always come in here and just combine all the material in here, which would take all this dry stuff out here on the edge that was just exposed to the air and blend it in with all the surrounding air material. And everything would just continue to dry off even further. But I felt like even during the last time I blended in the dry, I was already at that point even making this material feel perhaps not as comfortable as it could be from a worm's point of view. And I did find worms along the way, and I would just take them and put them over into the bait box as I encountered them, because there weren't that many. Definitely not many at all. And the few that I didn't bump into and put into the bait box manually were still left in here to make their way over. It's probably been at least 5 days now since I last did this. And I did come in here with the assumption that we would find no worms remaining in this stuff, since it did feel like that last blend in of material had significantly dried the stuff throughout. I mean, if I get the sense that there's still the need to try further baiting anything out of here, then that's fine, but I so far haven't encountered anything that I think would make me want to bother with that. So I'm just curious. I wonder if we'll see a similar result over, before we put these plastics aside and then forget about them. I'm just going to make sure any little wormies that are still adhering to it are removed. And actually, I should be making sure I put them onto the bait box, because everything else is going to be considered as worm-free at this point. So let's just complete the thought here. Let's just go ahead really quick through the material over here in bin number 2. I've already encountered a worm right there. Then again, right beneath the bait box, could have even just been a worm that was kind of already making its way in, but wasn't in far enough to hang on. Here's another one. Oh, I thought I felt another one. So perhaps we're still not at the point where we can just consider this as pure castings if we're going to keep fishing worms out of it. But you know, maybe we just got lucky and bumped into those couple little guys who we've since moved over with the rest of the gang. Let's just really quick see if it might be possible to consider this as also evacuated at this point. That was the material right beneath the bait box. Not too surprising to find a worm or two under there. But at this point, oh, there's a little guy. It does seem to me like we're bumping into more worms over here in bait box number 2. The wormies just didn't seem to make it all the way over into the bait box in here. And I'm almost wondering if it might just make sense to combine all this into a single container now and just redeploy the larger of my 2 bait boxes. I believe that'll just be the next step for this material at this point, because I'm not here to fish worms individually out of the material. It was just to make a judgment call as to whether further baiting of worms would make sense, and I'll have to decide. I might go through here, yeah, you know, I keep finding worms, so I think for their sake we should probably factor it in. So let's bring the camera down a little bit closer, I think, since we're just going to be working over here in the green tray. We don't have to be so high up. Let's get the camera in close so we can see what we see. So these top covering papers, we can just sort of pretty easily shake loose of any wormies on it. But we'll definitely bring these right back in. All I'm looking to do is just to dump these things out, and this will be our chance now to try to get a sense of how many worms are we occupying this new system with, how many African nightcrawlers were fortunate enough to not be part of the first haul out where all their relatives died off. Here, where given the ones that were stragglers a chance to repopulate. And it's always nice to look through material like this and see really small, tiny baby worms. So I'll be looking through this stuff a little bit more closely, but I think we've pretty much gotten everyone off. I do see 1 or 2 more. But before we turn our attention to what kind of a turnout we received in the bait box over in bin number 2, let's finish our quick look-see on how many worms we brought over here from bin number 1. It does seem like we were quite lucky to have a good number of straggler worms that didn't participate in that first haul out used to launch off those 2 unfortunate systems that died out. But I'm definitely liking the numbers of worms I'm seeing here. Don't forget, that was just one of the 2 bait boxes. So I hope you're all starting to formulate a rough number in your head, but don't lock in on that yet, because we still need to get a sense of how many worms are coming over out of the bait box that was over here in tray number 2. Here too, I'll just make sure that I've nudged out any wormies that I do see clearly. I'm just going to assume that there's still a few more that need to be located on that tray, and I'll reunite them too. But before we take our focus off here, keep that number of what you thought you saw coming out of the bait box, the first bait box, and here in the second bait box, I'm thinking pretty much an equal number, almost an exact similar, very similar turnout. These chunks of cantaloupe melon had all the yummy fruity goodness stripped clean of them, and all the paper, everything that was making up these bait boxes as far as bedding is all gone for the most part. I think this is all castings. I don't know if I even see much leftover bedding in here. I mean, I see leftover bits of like corn cob and food and stuff, but not really bedding. So yeah, what do you think, guys? Please leave a comment. Let me know how many worms you believe we're starting this recovery effort with. It's a seemingly nice turnout, a very nice group of stragglers. I'm glad we didn't go to great efforts to try to like get out a huge number of worms during the first haul out. We just sort of went on the assumption that we would still be trying to round worms up later, so we didn't have to go too overboard trying to gather up the worms for the first haul out. But yeah, we had a pretty major loss over there, which was really unfortunate. So now I was still going to and I'm still debating, do we even bother trying to bait any worms out of the finished castings? It almost does seem to me like there's, you know, hardly any worms, if any, remaining to bother doing that with. But now this stuff here, I'm still guessing that this might have some worms in it too. This is the material that I was able to screen clear out of the horizontal migration feeding zones. Stuff that was just not worms, basically, because I really tried hard to separate the worms from the material that they were inhabiting. And I know that I scooped in some worms as I was separating these bits of bedding materials. I had really no clue as far as how many I sort of brushed aside with this bedding, but I'm glad to see that there are a few. I've already bumped into a few, but there's not a whole lot. I think the main value of what's in here is just the bedding that the worms had been quite comfortable in when they were in the horizontal migration feeding zones of the two old, well, both of these two boxes. This is the material that had been used to try to get the worms to come on over so they can get collected up. And it was popular then, and I think it'll be popular now. It even has a few worms in it, so that little addition to the worm count also needs to be factored in. And I'll take a closer look, but I think there's one wormy right here. Let's get him over, and I think that'll be it for the recycled bedding that really belonged to them when they were kind of still in their horizontal migration mode. And then I think, besides the stuff that they're occupying now and these little bits of leftover cantaloupe rinds and the leftover material from the horizontal feeding zone is over here, but we got a little cavity, and I figured this would be a good spot to just bring in some of my my prepared bedding, 1 or 2 handfuls. We don't need much, just to sort of backfill this little void over here. This will give the worms the opportunity to stay where they are, possibly move into this stuff because it's nice and broken in and is also a familiar material. Or do they want to come in and explore the new fresh stuff? I wanted to keep it like really lightweight, but I am feeding them today. They're getting this banana peel, and that's it. So I figured I would put a piece of banana peel into each of the 3 sections, and this way we're providing equal incentive for the worms to go make their way over and get access to that yummy banana peel. So I'm putting a little bit over here into the worked bedding material from the horizontal migration feeding zones. I'm putting one right into here, into the fresh, brand new bedding. And then this last one, I wondered if we should maybe just position it kind of near the top and maybe backfill it a little bit, but we don't have to bury it or nothing like that. I think that'll be a nice little welcome treat, because I think that cantaloupe melon has been stripped clean of all of its yummy fruit for some time now. And you know, we've got a whole bunch of nice paper here. Over time, I think this stuff will gradually be utilized as bedding, but for now it's going to make a good top covering type stuff. And I've even got plastic and stuff like that. So I got a little bit of work to do here. I will look through this material just to make sure we didn't leave any worms behind. Here, for example, I already see one. Once they get moving again a little bit, they reveal their locations. But we're going to treat this as my newest system and It's not an official label. It's just a temporary indicator to show the new system. But as always, I'm looking forward to hearing everyone's comments. So please don't forget to let me know, how many worms did we just start this system with? I'm really curious to hear. These are the surviving African night crawlers, and I'm so glad so many survived. So I really look forward to hearing what everyone's got to say. So please comment. All right, everyone, that's it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone, have a great day. Bye.